This resulted in pushing self-esteem another mile marker down the road into self-love. But not the traditional self-love we're familiar with, be it the healthy kind where you love yourself in the form of self-respect and self-confidence, or the bad kind where you are narcissistic or arrogant. This new form of self-love is the next evolutionary stage of self-esteem, where it creates an entire value structure where 100% of your life value is derived internally, not externally. You don't have to do anything for anyone. You don't have to work or sacrifice or toil to create something of value for others. You don't have to invest in yourself to make yourself attractive to other people. The concept of selflessness and altruism is completely absent from this form of love, if for the simple fact there is no counterparty to be selfless or altruistic towards. And so this new love is a completely self-contained system, a truly individual and personal affair, only requiring the individual and no one else. The epitomal example of this new form of self-love can be found within the fat acceptance movement. I was binging on a whole host of female-oriented podcasts, one of which was dedicated solely towards fat acceptance. But of the many theories, sub-theories, concepts, and philosophies within the fat acceptance movement, self-love was one of the more interesting ones. And, best as my observations could tell me, self-love within the fat acceptance movement took on a role of asexuality. That you didn't need other people to have a full and rewarding love life. That you, unto yourself, were enough to love. Matter of fact, seeking approval or love from others was a form of weakness, even oppression. And therefore, you had no obligation to others, only to yourself. But this concept of self-love isn't relegated to fat acceptance podcasts. You can see it elsewhere. Though anecdotal, and usually clickbait, there is the twice-a-year article about a woman marrying herself, her cat, or her dog. There was even an article about a woman marrying her degree. There is no limit to the number of men who live in alternative realities, be it via video games, RPGs, or waifus. And not in a healthy and fun way where people get together and play a session of D&D, but where they love their character and their lives in a world that does not exist more than the one that does. And there is no limit to the number of young people who place their politics ahead of everything else in life, including other people, deriving value only from their sanctimonious selves. But whether it's people in the fat acceptance movement, a woman marrying herself, a NEET playing a 48th level paladin, or a self-obsessed anarcho-communist telling you about his politics when you didn't ask, whatever mental acrobatics people execute to confer self-love upon themselves, in the end it boils down to one thing and one thing only: laziness. These people are just too damn lazy to produce anything of value. It's not intellectual, it's not avant-garde, it's not edgy. It's a huge, bogus, intellectual facade to lie to yourself that you have worth without having to produce anything of value, because you're so deathly afraid of work. And ultimately, it's an admission of weakness, as you'd rather stare into a pond like Narcissus instead of putting in the work to get a profession, get a life, find love, or make some friends. The saddest thing ever: when laziness trumps love. In the end, self-love cannot have value, and for multiple reasons why. First, in self-conferring love, you essentially make yourself your own printing press of love. And just like a government printing off money causes hyperinflation and destroys the value of a currency, so too does printing off self-love. I can look in the mirror all day and say, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. That doesn't make it so. There needs to be some genuine production, achievement, or accomplishments to give the individual intrinsic value, not a mere declaration of value by fiat. Second, the only consumer of this self-love currency can be the individual who manufactures it, because who else is going to want it? The quickest way to deter somebody from spending time with you is to tell that person how great you are all the time. And while certainly there is value in self-respect and self-confidence, when all somebody talks about is themselves without some amazing achievements and accomplishments in life to back it up, like, say, the world's most interesting man, other people quickly tune out, divest from the individual, and spend no time with that person. Once again, rendering that person insular and irrelevant to the rest of the entire world. Third, there is an observational effect of value or love, as we discussed about the musician's theoretical composition sitting unseen on the surface of Mars in Chapter 24. Unless there is another party or person to observe, appreciate, and like/love another person, then no such value exists. Proponents of self-love would argue that this is precisely the point of self-love, that they don't need an external party to confer or condone value or love upon them. But this then reinforces the entire point that self-love offers no value to society, only to oneself. And this is perhaps the core definition of self-love, as it only benefits the individual, is for the sake of the individual, and offers nothing of value to others. And so while podcasts can be recorded, research conducted, articles written, even books published about self-love, all that intellectual ballyhoo and pablum is completely unnecessary, as the entire concept of self-love is completely summarized and described in one word: masturbation. And a life based solely on masturbation is a very, very, very lonely life.